Before we introduce Peter and Chris, let's go to Brad Gray from Racing New South Wales with a profile on last year's champ, Redzel.
Redzel, the inaugural winner of the Tab Everest, and described by co-trainer Paul Snowden as a horse that would run through a brick wall for you. What you see is what you get with this 6-year-old. No fuss, a ton of speed and a stack of courage. As he creeps towards $9 million in prize money, Redzel is only $41,000 shy of eclipsing Chautauqua as Australia's highest earning sprinter. If Redzel was to claim back-to-back wins in the Tab Everest, he'd surge past the $15 million mark and rank second, only behind Winx as Australia's top earning racehorse in history. He's got speed, makes his own luck, and perhaps most admirably, is one of the most consistent sprinters we've ever seen. So how did it all begin for this perfect sprinting prototype? Starting his career with Gerald Ryan, Redzel showed his rivals a clean pair of heels at Warwick Farm as a 2-year-old, beating Japonisme by 3 lengths. He finished third in the Kindergarten Stakes at his second start and was then transferred to the Snowden yard. Stablemate Russian Revolution denied Redzel his maiden Group 1 win in 2017, the Galaxy. It only took 2 more starts though for Redzel to win a major of his own when claiming the Doomben 10,000. Redzel kicked off his spring campaign where he left off in Queensland, tuning up for a would-be tilt at last year's the Tab Everest by winning the Concord Stakes and the Shorts in dominant fashion. Ridden by Karen McAvoy, who has been aboard Redzel in 7 of his 13 victories, the pair looked in control of the Tab Everest from the get-go. The celebrations were as fast and furious as Redzel's win. After adding the Group 1 Darley Classic to his growing CV, there was no doubt that he was the benchmark sprinter in the country. After having his colours lowered by the new kid on the block trapeze artist in the TJ Smith Stakes, that mantle looked under threat. However, Redzel's dominant performance first up in the Concord Stakes suggests he's not prepared to give up that crown without one hell of a fight.
Yes, the Redzel team are here, Peter Snowden and Chris Ward from Triple Crown. Welcome, guys. How's Team Redzel feeling on a Tuesday as opposed to the Saturday?
Much better this morning. No, it was a disastrous morning, Saturday morning. The hardest part was Friday night, he was perfect. And then to bring him out of the box Saturday morning, to see him the way he walked out and just couldn't believe. He's one horse, touch wood. We've had no problems with him whatsoever all the way along. And seeing him come out of the box as stiff and sore as he was, you couldn't believe it could happen just overnight.
What was the issue, Pete? What happened?
He got cast ray, and it's just as simple as that. When I say he could walk, but he definitely wasn't right. Yeah. And certainly to the point where Paul and I both shook our head and said there's no way he could race today. Had it been Tuesday or Wednesday, there's probably every chance he would have made it there. But having that happen on the night before, just made it just too much to do in such a short space of time.
So he just gets in an awkward position in his box when he gets up. He's
been in that same stall for 2 years. He has straw up to the roof. You wouldn't think he'd possibly get cast in it, but he just found a way that somehow he's slept wrong or whatever. But once we got the chiropractor to him mid-morning, he was within an hour or two. He was back to almost normal again. So,
I guess your first phone call was to Chris Ward.
Yeah.
Chris, how do you feel when you get one of those calls early doors on a Saturday morning?
Oh, look, I'm usually pretty happy to take Pete's calls, but during the week. But when it comes on a Saturday morning before 7:30, you see Pete's name come up on the phone. You don't particularly want to take it. You know it's not good news. But no, it was. Look, I was pretty dirty on the world, obviously, after that, and it was disappointing news. But these things happen in racing. You know, we've been through it before. Lots of ups and downs in this game, but you roll with the punches, and thankfully it's come good pretty quickly.
So he's told you, now you got to tell those red guys.
Yeah, which seem to grow every time you get with the races. There's more and more of them in the crew. But
exactly right. Yeah, no, I mean, as part of the job, you've got to deliver that news. And look, they were all obviously disappointed, but yeah, they're great owners. They understood the situation, and the horse's welfare comes first, and they know we live to fight another day.
On the positive side, Pete, you're back on track, aren't you?
Yeah, no, he worked pace work this morning. He was very strong in his work, and we'll give him a good searching gallop on Thursday morning, and that should have him back up where we had him before.
Okay. And that's not unusual for a horse to bounce back as quick as that?
Oh, absolutely. It's just like yourselves. If anyone has a back problem, once you go to a chiropractor, get it manipulated and put it back in, it's instant relief, and that's what he had more or less straight away when we had it put back in.
Where is he at this year compared to last year?
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding in the shorts, in in his
Concord,
first, the Concord.
yeah.
I thought he was outstanding. He just, a good quality race. He really never got out of second gear. He was giving those horses 4 and 5 kilos, and he had a good bit of belly on him. Good improvement in him, but I was really, really happy with the time he ran, the way in which he won, and the way he pulled up like he'd never even gone out there. So very pleasing for me and Paul to see him come back in that sort of fashion and win as dominant as he did.
Question to both gentlemen. Last year, the experience of last year was an unknown. We didn't know what would happen on Everest Day. You win the race. What was the feeling like? And I guess it's months in planning, Pete, and Chris, months in waiting, and all of a sudden you're standing there as the Everest champion.
Yeah, for me, I don't know about Chris, but for us it was, our whole day was, for me it was just all about the horse and nothing else. And Paul and I both stayed down the stalls and we just virtually turned off the outside world just to concentrate on what we had with our horse and going over the finer things, and knowing on the day we had him as good as we could and just hoping the execution came off. But and even when we won, the first thing you think of, you know you've got a great chance, you know your horse is well, everything's fine, but you still can't believe you've done it. And it's the disbelief, then the relief, and then the euphoria that followed when that Red Army come around all around. And, but it was a one special day.
I remember it.
Yeah, look, I just found it absolutely surreal. You know, it was the build-up was enormous going into this race. You know, it's nothing like we've seen before. You know, we've been fortunate enough to win Group 1 races in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane before, and we've always thought that is the pinnacle. You know, how good's this when we win those sort of races? But the Everest just took it to a whole new level. And look, I remember Pete saying after the race too, you know, he's won Golden Slippers, he's won an enormous amount of Group 1s, but this was by far the biggest and probably the most satisfying.
You can't prepare yourself for that, Pete, can you?
No, it's all those emotions I said earlier about it. You know you got a good chance. You wouldn't be there if you didn't have a good chance. We know we had a good horse, but you just, when going past the post, you just can't believe you've won it. No, that feeling I wish everyone in racing could get it, because it's just you feel like, am I worthy of it? Do I deserve it? Is it really happening? All those things I thought about, but some people might have thought like that. But for me, we just feel so lucky and blessed that we're doing something we really love, and to get those sort of thrills out of racing, you feel very honoured.
Pete, it might be a cliche, I know, but people say you don't want a setback before a big race. If I could rephrase that, if you're going to have a setback, is it easier with a sprinter than it would be, say, with a middle distance or a staying horse?
Yeah, I'd sort of go with the first catchphrase, don't have one at all.
Fair enough, yeah.
They're never good, but look, there's nothing we can do about it. One good thing was, if it's a stone bruise, it'll take you 2 or 3 days or a week. This thing happened, it had relief within an hour, a couple of hours, so for us it was a short fix, quick fix. But the horse is fine, and I treadmilled him Sunday, and again Monday, that's just to make sure his back was right, and we rode him this morning and went some evens, and her regular rider Julie just said he just feels absolutely amazing. She had a job to pull him up. He was that keen throughout his work, and that's for us. We know he's back to where he was, and he can have a good solid gallop on Thursday.
See, last year went perfectly. You Concord, Shorts, Everest, that was the plan. You were going to follow it this year.
Yeah.
So what went through your mind when you thought, I've got to reprogram?
The first thing that went through my mind is get this horse right. Whatever it is, we've got to get it right, and hopefully we do get it right. Then the rest will take care of itself, because he's that sort of horse. He's a very, very good track worker, to the point where you don't really go flat out with him. He just runs
He'll do the job.
So we could get there with just barrier trials, one barrier trial and track work. But because it's the race it is, you need to have him really, really well. And we're giving that good hit out in a fortnight. We can taper off the last 4 or 5 days with him like we normally do, and have him really bouncing. And when he's like that, that's the right recipe.
Chris, what did an Everest do to your business? You've been successful syndicators for how many years? 15 years?
About 14 years now.
14 years, yeah. You've won Group 1s all over the shop, but as you said, this brought a whole new level of I guess, exposure for Triple Crown syndications. What did it do to the business? Yeah,
I guess that's essentially it. It just furthered our exposure, not only to the racing fraternity, but also the Everest sort of cut through the mainstream media as well. And a lot of those fringe followers of racing got a lot of exposure with them, and we had an enormous amount of inquiries that came in from people wanting to get involved in racehorse ownership after that Everest, in the weeks and months afterwards. And naturally that flowed into the horses that we picked up at the Magic Millions the next year, and it's been a big boost in the arm for Triple Crown and all our team of owners.
I'm tipping it wasn't just Triple Crown as well.
No, it's great for race horse ownership.
I reckon across the board there might have been more people wanting to own horses.
And to be honest, I think that's part of the, granted we won it last year, so obviously I think that's fantastic, but I think it made the race that a syndicated horse won it last year. If there was one criticism, it was that it's going to be an elitist sort of event, and I think they put an exclamation mark on it that it's certainly not. If you've got a horse good enough, it'll be there.
It proved that it was open to everyday Australians.
All comers.
Your business, Pete, I dare say you can't probably fit any more in it. You're a finite number at Randwick, but what did it do for your business?
You're right, we're very, very lucky, Ray, with the amount of support we've had right from day one when we first moved to Randwick, Paul and I. But the yearling sale was our two biggest clients sort of fill our books every year. So and with Triple Crown as well, just whatever space is left, they've topped it. So we're blessed to have the horse we do. We don't need to buy yearlings. So I know that's a huge thing in the racing business, because all trainers have to buy horses and syndicate them and do their best to sell them off. But we're extremely lucky to have the amount of support we have.
Just looking at the list of the horses that ran in the race last year who are lucky enough to back up this year, they've all got different slot owners this time.
It's funny how that works out, isn't it?
Isn't it? They've all got different slot. They're running for different. The four horses are running for different slot holders. So you had James Harron last year, and I would have thought it was a given that you'd want to get the band back together again.
Yeah, I think naturally you do, and I think you naturally expect that people have got their associations from the previous year, so that's the way things are going to flow. But everyone's coming at it from different angles and different lines of thought and approaches, and look, we were certainly in touch with James and would have been more than happy to go with their team again this year, but the timing wasn't right for them, I guess, in what they wanted to do and how they wanted to approach it. And we're very fortunate that we're in a strong position this year, and we had a lot of other slot holders that were keen to get onto Redzel.
So Yulong comes in.
Yep.
And how quick did the deal get done?
Pretty quickly, really, yeah. It was, look, we just had a lunch with Sam Fairgrey, Mr Zhang's representative out here, and we talked about all the possibilities and the different ways we could do things, and Mr Zhang he's been very keen on Redzel for a long time, and look, it wasn't too complicated. It was pretty easy, just a nice lunch, and it didn't take long to come to an agreement.
Does that help you, Pete? Because last year Redzel wasn't in the race until, was it post the shorts, by memory?
We'd had a few feelers. We knew we were pretty short of a slot. So
but this
between
year,
the Concord and shorts last year.
But this year you're in the race months out. Does it help you?
Oh, look, being the last year's winner, you're pretty much assured, as long as your form comes somewhere near where it should be, you're going to get a slot. But it is a sense of relief for sure. If you're a fringe dweller, you're sort of hoping, and there's a few horses now hoping to get in, and it's especially if I heard you speak earlier about horses getting set for 6 furlong race or 7 furlong or mile races. It's pretty hard to come back from those races back to if you get a late call up. So it's really a race you need to target and identify a fair way out rather than just a couple of weeks or a week.
Winter and spring, he looked unbeatable going back 12 months ago. Was he as good coming off last autumn?
I believe so. I think there's a couple of times we just got a little bit caught up in the speed that we're using on him, and Karen, he'll admit to this as well. We just sort of, especially in the all age, we just set it up for something to come from behind. There was no need to go as fast as what we did mid-race, and it's all about timing. You're talking about really good horses. We spoke about it early outside about there's 12 horses in this race. There's probably only 2 lengths difference in ability between the 12 of them. So what you do and how you run your races, and I mean split seconds, or either win a race or lose a race. So we need to make sure we don't set him too big a task where you don't need to, and just keep him strong. Like last year, the execution was absolutely perfect. Every second, every furlong was what we thought it would be, and he had that nice rest off Hootson between the 800 and the 400. And when he idled up at the furlong and hadn't even, his foot was still firmly on the throttle, and it was just the best feeling I've ever had.
7 Group 1 winners in last year's field, and it rated as the best sprint race in 2017. This year's race, we've still got that one slot to fill, but there's 9 individual Group 1 winners. The other 2 horses are absolutely outstanding sprinters. It looks a better race again.
I believe so. I think it is. It's every bit of last year, and with the flavour of a bit of overseas horses as well. Aidan O'Brien's horse, I think, is en route to Australia now, I think, or has
Maybe
been.
Saturday
night.
So he's a player, and he wouldn't bring a horse here just for the scenery. He's here to run well, and it's and even the Australian horse we have here, they are the best of the best. So it's a great race.
What do you think? I reckon the most talked about horse in this field has been Nature Strip. He wasn't even there, and he was the most talked about horse. Whether will they pick him or won't he? Is he a 1,000-metre horse, or is he a 1,200-metre horse? Do you think for the race itself it's good to have him there, because he's obviously a high-speed horse?
I think it certainly adds a bit of extra interest and X factor to the race. And look, personally, I've got my reservations that he'll make the 1,200. I think he's an outstanding 1,000-metre horse, and you've seen the times that he can run. But he'll add a bit of extra speed into the race, no doubt. And I think there is a bit more speed this year across a few of the runners. But look, as far as Redzel's concerned with that too, I think he's now versatile as well, that he can either take up the lead himself, or he can just sit back off him, as we saw in the Challenge Stakes earlier this year, and try and get home over the top of them. So Kerrin can do as he pleases now.
Is that why this race works and has worked so well? We're only in its second year, but it's captured not only the imagination of Australian racing around the world. Is it because our depth of talent in terms of our sprinters is so deep, and the rest of the world's looking at that prize money, $13 million?
Yeah, for me personally, you'd be glad to put a bridle on any horse of that race and take it home. You know, they're very, very worthy horses, and what you say is right. Our depth in Australian sprinters is outstanding. Where we might take a second seat to the stayers and the European stayers, I think sprinters, there's no doubt we're the king of the sprinters.
Look at that trophy. Where's the trophy sit? Who's got it? You or Paul, Pete?
And we swap it.
Do you?
No, it's a great deal. It's a huge thrill and an honour to be part of it, and to have a horse as good as Redzel. We're very lucky.
I think they got the day right too. I think the added races that we see on that day, the Consolation and the St Ledger's back, and it was more than just a race, wasn't it? It was a high quality day.
Yeah, it was backed by some good quality racing beforehand.
Yeah.
And speaking selfishly, as a print journo, it's great to have an opportunity to target a major race day without worrying about how much space the rugby league takes up, and that's one of the main reasons.
That's why it's there. That's why it's there.
2 weeks
I think that was
after.
key, wasn't it? Got
Clear air for racing. It's fantastic.
And it can't be moved. I mean, it might be moved a day here and there, but
it works.
It won't be anywhere other than that time in middle October. It has to be.
It works, and it works perfectly. And it's only. Can it get any bigger, boys? Because I don't know if it can get much bigger.
It's hard to imagine, isn't it? But look, I've heard there's talk that they're going to open up the infield with some additional crowd coming in there, and so that might eventuate.
The crowd figure potentially is supposed to be over 40,000. The way ticket sales are going, was it
hard to
last
imagine
year
where they go.
33?
33, and they're heading towards 40 this year.
It's amazing.
They might have to put them on the infield.
Do we know what the entertainment is this year?
No
word.
No. Well, I reckon he knows.
I
reckon if anyone knows, he knows, but he won't.
He'd know.
He won't give it away.
I'm not allowed to. I can't say anything.
So you do know.
I sort of do. Yeah.
You sort of do.
Yeah. It hasn't been locked in yet, but
Right.
I've been saying that for 3 weeks, haven't I?
How do you get to know?
Oh, well, I don't know. I
think it was a fair question.
It was a slip of the tongue, I think. A slip of the tongue.
So someone just blurted it out and you happen to be there.
Yeah, and then they went, don't say anything. So
well, it doesn't matter who it is.
It'll be big anyway.
Yeah. We better let you guys go to bed, especially you. You've got oyster work in the morning, including
shut now. You don't know.
Thanks for coming in, boys.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Guys.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll welcome Gay Waterhouse to trek to the Everest.